All right. Hey guys, I'm Mark Meh. I'm a photographer and educator on the East Coast here in the U.S. And today I'm really excited to have Ryan Longnecker with me here. If you're on the West Coast with Ryan, it's about 4 p.m. You've still got blasting sunlight probably. If you're here on the East Coast with me, we're enjoying a sunset. So cheers to all you guys. But yeah, this is an artist talk that I do, a series I do that with other photographers that inspired me and hopefully inspire you. So tonight we have Ryan Longnecker on live. If you are watching live, you can leave your live questions either in the Q&A section over here on your right if you're on the Google Hangout, or if you're on my website, you can look down here below and you'll see a comment section. You can leave questions there for Ryan or myself in there. So hey Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? After I have this whole headphone thing figured out, I'm happy and I'm good. And I'm glad everyone's patient.
Yeah. Your fans were popping on and talking to us, and they were keeping us entertained throughout it all. So that was
good.
Good stuff. Awesome. So how you doing right now? What have you been working on?
What have I been? Well, today I did some corporate headshot stuff. Very uninspiring, very boring. But I mean, it's just that stuff where half the time you do work that pays, and then the other half you use all that money that you got to do that boring work, to do work that you're a bit happier with. And so
yeah,
I'm kind of in this time right now where I'm moving out of some less interesting work, and I'm moving more into doing it, some like traveling stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot more teaching and that kind of stuff. And so just kind of all over the place right now, but it's awesome and it's weird and it's random, but it's really cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the first questions I love asking other photographers on these things is, can you talk about some of your beginnings, maybe some of your more humble beginnings,
Dude, all of my beginnings are humble. Like everybody, like I don't think anybody, just other than like Jeremy Cowart, where it's like his first like shoot, he just killed it straight out of the gate and he had like people loving him right away. But most everyone else, like for me, my first camera was a Kodak Easy Share, like this. It was the first camera I'd ever seen that had manual controls on it.
Yeah.
And I just took it out and I was like, what do all of these buttons mean? And I don't like to read, so it's like you probably could have figured that out if I would have read like the manual. But it was just ever since then I just started playing with that. And I started out as I didn't start out as a wedding person. I just got asked to take pictures at a wedding, and then from there it was just a series of more and more people asking me to do that kind of stuff. A lot of work that now I'm like, I would never show anybody ever, and I'm glad that it, like, I had a hard drive crash it was like a year ago, and I lost like 2.5 years of my first like pictures, and I was like, and like in one sense I was like, oh man, I'm so pissed and I'm bummed that happened, but in another sense I'm like, there's no evidence of a lot of the stuff that I started with. But it was like bad, like just spot coloring, vignetting, super high contrast, weird colors and all this stuff. And it was at a person's wedding. Like, and so I think that was my start, was just trying to do everything I could and trying to learn. And it was just like, you have this open canvas, you can try whatever you want. And at the time, spot coloring and really grungy stuff was in. And so I tried that, and I thought at the time it looked really cool, but I think that's how we all do it. I mean, we all try weird stuff,
Totally. No, I'm actually, I think every year I come around and I try to revisit what I consider my best photos, and I'll be like, man, look how I edited that. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
And so I just quickly read it again and put it back up, and I'm like, wow, that looks significantly better. I'm so happy that I did that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. I thought that was my best, and it was at that time. It was my best at that time, and that's okay. But we all are on a journey. So.
Oh, for sure.
So how long have you been shooting?
Well, I think officially I started to shoot in 2006, I think. Well, that was the first time where I actually partnered up with my buddy. We opened this wedding photo thing, and he still shoots weddings and kills it. His name's Mike TZA. You should look him up. He's killer.
Okay.
But other than that, it was like we just did weddings part time. I've always had kind of other things that I've been into, but yeah, I would say that I've been shooting part to full time for probably the last 8 years, 9 years maybe.
Okay, cool. What else have you done other than photography?
Well, I actually have a degree in music and theology. I have a master's in theology, so I've worked for the church out here, and so I've worked with college kids, and I've done a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm trying to currently work with a recovery program to get art kind of moved into the recovery process. So if anybody's ever heard of like the 12 steps of AA, I'd like to get like an art piece moved into that, because I think that art is so integral into the recovery process and to just the human kind of expression of stuff. So it's been kind of like half photos, half that other thing. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm also a high school teacher. I teach photography and video at high school too. So
awesome.
Right along the same lines.
Yeah.
Where are you in California exactly, by the way?
Well, exactly. I live in the Rossmore neighborhood of Los Alamitos, which doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's just between Long Beach and Huntington. So if Huntington goes north and you hit Long Beach, it's like this little pocket area right between it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. That's great. Let's see. What else do I have for you here? You got any embarrassing stories from when you first started out, when you were,
oh man,
you know, I mean, what are your most memorable embarrassing stories that would help us?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know any that would help other people other than just kind of knowing.
Well, just saying it out loud.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think that there's been enough times where everybody has had this client reaches out to you and says, hey, do you have any more of this one thing, because you totally missed the shot completely.
Yeah.
And they say, do you have any more from that really important moment that I told you to not miss? And it was like, oh no, I actually totally like screwed that up. Sorry. Like, and I've had that happen a couple of times where I just missed the moment completely. But I do have a few moments where I put people in really uncomfortable situations that I probably shouldn't have, because I wasn't reading their personalities right. Like for me, I'm very outdoorsy. I like to climb and hike. And so I was just like, I would take any client that I got and I would say, hey, we're going to go hike on these cliffs over here because you're my client. And so and it's like, I didn't have any sense of, maybe they don't like that, or maybe that's not their personality, or maybe this is going to make them feel really uncomfortable. And so I would take people who were very much like, they were just very chill, and I'd say, hey, go climb out onto those wet stones over there. And it was just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is, and it was a lot. So I don't have any one specific story well, that's not true. I was doing engagement pictures, and there's this area where you have your couple hike out on these really jagged stones into the ocean, and it looks really cool. And there's a lot, but it's like, there's 50 million pictures of this same spot that I was just kind of, it's that new photographer thing where you see a new spot and you're like, oh man, I want to get that spot too. Yeah. And so you don't really value, like, I want to find my own spots. You're just like, I've seen a million pictures of that. I want to be one of the people that have taken that picture. So sure. I took this couple client, which it helped that they were my friends too. So they kind of played along with my embarrassing start, I guess. And they were just like, we'll just do whatever he said. They were cool with it. But I had them, she was dressed like in this really nice, like flowy gown. He was kind of in a suit, and I was like, go walk out to this area. And I was like, I just sent them, like, they're not outdoorsy people at all. I was like, they could have slipped off those rocks. And I was like, I didn't have a plan B. Like, I didn't have I didn't have weather sealing for any of my equipment, and there was like California, like coastal mist coming onto my stuff. And I was like, but it was just that I was so in the moment that I wasn't caring about all the external things, which you kind of grow into and you learn more about. But
Sure.
So many of those kinds of stories where I just didn't think about anything other than the shot. And because of that, I was probably put a lot of people in uncomfortable spots. But
Right on, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've all been there before, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess as you've grown since over the past, it sounds like 8 or 9 years as a photographer, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have personally faced, or maybe just seen in general as approaching the industry and business as a photographer?
Yeah. Well, I had a phone call with a person who used to be a National Geographic photographer, and he just hung out with me, and he just like chatted with me for half an hour, because I think that was always where I wanted to end up, but it was always like, okay, where do I put my work in there? And I think that for me, that's been the constant challenge, is knowing where do you put your effort. Like if you're a wedding photographer, should you spend your hours at bridal shows, or should you spend your hours at like creating really good Facebook campaigns?
Sure.
Like, and I think that you have so many hours in a day to kind of build your craft and also get your craft out there and kind of share it with people, that how do you know where to put your time? And I think that was the hardest thing for me, was to know, like, I know I have to hustle. Like as an artist, you know, you have to hustle somewhere, sometime. You know that you have to have purposed conversations with people that are in the industry. You know that you have to meet you have to network and all that stuff. It's all important. But it was like, I wasn't totally sure where I was supposed to put my time. And I think the challenges that came with that, like with that conversation that I had, he pretty much sat me down and said, he was trying to be as real and honest with me, but it was very discouraging. And I think anybody that's in the photo industry is like, it is a saturated market. The accessibility of people to have a really quality camera and say they're a photographer is like out of control. And he was like, we don't need more photographers. And he kind of tried to like move me away. He was like, your work is great, but I don't think you should be trying that. And so it was this really mixed kind of like, well, thank you, but screw you. Like, it was kind of like this, like, thanks for your advice, but I mean, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to continue to do. And so, yeah, it was like, where do I put in my time? Where do I spend energy?
Yeah, that's so interesting. But I have my master's in media production, and and it's my undergrad is education. So one of my mentors during my master's program, he said almost the exact same thing. He said during my year of photography, or went deep into it. His name is Jeff Goodman. For anybody who's been to App State, you probably know him. But he said we don't need more photographers. We just need more people who pay attention. Is what he said. You know. And it was just, it really helped me enter into the photography world as an artist, as someone who appreciated life in the world, and as a human rather than just someone who takes photos, you know. So that was great.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So where do you think photography is going in the next few years? Since, I mean, you've almost seen a decade of it getting paid for it ish. And so, I mean, where do you see it going after another decade?
Well, I have kind of two answers to that. I mean, I have a hopeful answer, and then I have kind of a cynical answer, because it's like, I kind of hold the two where it's like, it could really go in either way. And I think that my cynical answer is like, okay, at some point, the need for people to actually be pros will become smaller. It's like most people, just how anybody that's in like the wedding industry knows, it's like, okay, you can have a ton of skill and then there can be a person who's in high school or college, and they have enough of an eye, like they might not even have a personality enough, but they might have enough of an eye to undercut the entire market so low where it's like, well, I'm not going to like drop my prices that low to like compete with this 18-year-old that lives with his parents and can really charge whatever he wants. But I think that also that there's like, so my cynical answer is you're really going to have to start to offer more than just quality pictures.
Sure.
And, well, I mean, that's not even a cynical answer. I just think that that's where we are as a culture. Like when you've got people who can scroll through Instagram and see hundreds of just epic pictures all the time, it's like, what actually stops you to get your attention? And so my hopeful answer is that it'll actually breed a new kind of artist. And I think that what the world needs, I mean, I think that your teacher was right. Like we need more people that pay attention. Like I think we need more people that will use their skill and their art and their talent to tell quality stories. And it's like, if you have an eye for color or composition, or if you know what you're up to with like websites or social media strategies, like what are you actually going to offer the world more than just that really cool picture?
Sure.
And so I think it'll stretch people, because everybody that has a really cool camera or that has a killer following will have to say, okay, what else can I offer? Because this is not lasting forever. So yeah, I don't know. Like my hopeful answer is that it will breed new kinds of like artists.
Right on, for sure.
Yeah.
We got cut out there for a second, so I know we missed a little bit. I don't know what happened, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We're all good.
Yeah.
But
cool.
that was really, that's great. That's really interesting coming from you, for sure, to hear that. And I think that is so important. And as we see droves and droves of new photographers coming in to the industry and wanting to be a full-time photographer, it is really interesting to see that contrast and just kind of observe over time, for those of us who have been here for a few years and watch this change happen and just, accept it and in one sense be cynical, like you're saying. It's like, so it is an interesting balance, but we do have to accept it, that's for sure.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
But honestly, it makes us better. I don't think that we can all just hang out in where we were a few years ago. That's not healthy for anybody, so
Yeah.
And nobody can expect to be stay at the top of the game by doing that. So
Right.
So let's see. I actually just started selling my own presets. I know you sell your presets with Looks Like Film. Can you talk about how you got connected with those guys a little bit and all that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually don't personally know any of those guys. I don't know a lot of people that I connect with like on the internet, but it's like I just know that they had a really, like, anytime that I would see the people that ran that, because I think I first got hooked into the Visco film users group just because I don't even know how I heard about it, but I was like, okay, this is a place where people can come and actually post this and get feedback. And it was, and like for me too, I'm like, if there's any way for me to get my work in front of people's eyes, it helps, it challenges me, because I'm like, okay, this is a group of people that I'm now accountable to. And because if I've posted that same picture, then I think everybody kind of anticipates like, okay, in 6 months' time, his work should improve. And so I think that for me, like Facebook and all that stuff and Insta and all that, it's helped push me, because I'm like, okay, this is a group of people that now I'm accountable to. I need to improve my craft. And so sure. I got drawn into it that way of like, okay, this looks like it would be a good place for me to post work regularly that might not end up on my website. It might not end up on my portfolio. It might not end up anywhere, but it's just a place where I'm like, even if I'm trying something totally new, this is a good spot for it. And so I just posted there, and then I had a very similar personality as like the people who kind of manage that. Like they have really good, they take themselves very lightly, but they're also pros, like they're good at what they do. And so I was very attracted to that part of it. And then I got reached out to by the team and said like, hey, we're trying to start this new set of presets. And at first I was like, sure. I honestly, and I didn't know anything about like red leaf or redwood or like any of these other like preset things. I didn't really pay too much attention to that. And so I thought it was just going to be this like really small, like maybe 5 or 10 people were going to be like interested in this new thing. And I was like, sure, I'll make some presets. Cause I honestly was like, maybe it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't really matter too much. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I will try it. And so that was my first attempt at actually making any of them, even though I do that kind of work on my own all the time. But I was like very haunted by the idea that somebody else would use a preset that I made and hate it. And that's definitely happened. But it was like just the idea that I would make something and hand it off and then people would be using that on their pictures was like, I never thought that would ever happen, but it's it's definitely cool to be in that like swing of things now.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Looks Like Film guys and with y'all's and Lauren and Chris and Don and Helen, I mean, that's really inspiring. It's been a huge inspiration to me to go out and sell my own stuff, you know, on my own website. And I do that now. And it's great. And I make money. It's really interesting. It's strange. It's so strange that I can do this. And I'm like, it's so weird that like, I've never thought of this before, you know, and no one, and it's like it's like really, I guess it started with Visco. I don't know. I don't know anybody before Visco that did it, but they kind of definitely have helped us become, has helped this movement for sure. But
absolutely.
It's amazing. It's amazing to, I think that, as photographers now we can sell these digital products like this that aren't really photography. You know, they're us moving things. And we're in that sense when we're like graphic designers, you know. I love just observing some of Sam Hurd's Facebook posts where, I don't know if you follow him, and but he, you know, he'll make these very, very broad and general statements like, you know, about the dodging and burning. I don't know if you've seen that one. You know, a wonderful, amazingly educational statement, and just allowing people to respond. Obviously some of it was a little bit negative, but it was such a great place to see how our community views us. You know, what are we? Are we button pushers? Are we designers? You know, what are we really? You know, just a great explanation and a lesson in empathy for all of us. I think if we can observe that without being judgmental, for sure. You know.
Yeah, and he like, I actually think he's a really good he is a good example of a person who, I mean, he is a photographer, but he's like a craftsman. Like he just loves to be a part of the entire process of the whole thing. And I think that all of us at some point, it's like, if I'm taking a picture, like there is an element of like the gear is important and the process is important and how I talk to the client is important. So I'm like personnel, I'm a director, but I'm also like PR, and I'm also an artist, and I'm also like customer relations, and I'm also like accountant, and I'm like all of these things because I'm like, I have to cover all of these elements because I'm working with people. Like, and I think that that's probably what separates us from people that just deal digitally with other people, is that we actually have an impact because we are looking at people in the face while we work with them. And so I think that there's an element where it's like a preset is interesting because it's a part of our craft. Like, it's not just this connected thing where it's like the more that you've worked with anything, the more that a painter works with paints, they'll understand what colors work with what colors, and they'll understand what kind of draws their eye to it. They'll be drawn to certain other painters and things like that. And I think that there's no distinction between the art that we do and the art that any other artist in the past has ever had, where it's like their styles, their tastes, they'll try new things. It's like Sam Hurd puts a bunch of crap in front of his lens, and all of this a sudden everyone's like, oh, that's a look that I didn't even know that you could achieve like in the camera. Let's try and put other things there. It's like, well, he hasn't become less of a photographer. He's just melded it more into like, I'm an artist. Like, I'm an artist first, and I take pictures. That's how I do it. And so I think that he has a lot of stuff to say about that. But I think that he's a good example of like a person who is very open. And I mean, there are some parts of it that are negative, but I don't think they're out of place. Like, I think that they're well-placed criticisms about the community of people who are claimed a purist thing and all that stuff. I mean, I've heard every argument where I'm like, just go have fun. Like, go take pictures. Yeah. Just chill out, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think it's, like I said, it's one sense, it's a great lesson as an educator of photographers, but at the same time, it's also hard not to be a cynic, like you were saying before, so. Speaking of other photographers, are there any other ones that kind of have inspired you over the past few years that you follow even?
Yeah. I mean, because I've had my hand in so many areas, I'm like, if I'm trying to think of like really interesting portraiture or commercial work, there's like Emily Soto, who I think is really rad. She has just this way to like retouch and edit her photos, which is just incredible. I hang out with Ben Sasso all the time. He lives close to me, like we're close, and he's well respected in the photo community, in the educational world. He's well known and all that stuff. But recently, I've been really into Jordan Herschel. He's a landscape dude that just kills it with like there's certain people where it's like there's no way you have that many like perfect pictures on your computer to like edit. Like, how is that possible that you post that many good pictures? Do any of them suck like mine? But like, and I think that he's one that's really, really good. I just met a dude named Eric Rubens who lives close to here. So it's just lots of landscape kind of guys. But I follow, there's a group of people that contribute to National Geographic called the Photo Society, and they do a lot of like documentary type stuff and that. So it's I'm really into like a wide array, just because I'm never comfortable just saying like this is the only thing I'm ever going to take pictures of. And so there's quite a few. I follow probably too many on Instagram, just because there's also some people who I just follow because I like them and they're good people, and I'm just like, hey, I'll support your work even if I don't personally enjoy it. It's like, you're a good person, so you should be shown love. So
right on.
Yeah.
Right on, for sure.
Yeah.
So this is one that's kind of interesting. So are you willing to talk about any emotional struggles that have kind of inspired you or pushed you as a photographer? The people that I think of when I ask this question are your first one that you said, Jeremy Cowart. He does this, and then guys like Ryan Muirhead, and those are two that off the top of my head that I think of that kind of just wear their heart on their sleeve, and really, really incorporate that into their work. Now, they're not wedding photographers, so they do that a smidge more. Understand that.
Sure.
So I don't know. Is there anything like that that you'd be willing to talk about?
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, by and large, I think that people like there's more examples of artists who really wear their emotional heart on their sleeve, and it comes out in their work is a lot darker, or it's a lot more just moodier, or it's like when you see a picture that they've taken, like Ryan Muirhead, it's like you're asking yourself, like, what's the story behind that? Like, it's really, it's like there's got to be more there. But I think that, I mean, I've had emotional kind of like waves where it's like there are times where I have gone into those lower places, but part of how art is therapeutic for me is not necessarily to kind of take that and show everybody that part of my world, even though I think that there are times, like I did a portrait series like last year where it was all about mental health and depression and all of that, and I just took portraits of people, and I was like, and it wasn't at all, I don't know, it wasn't great work, but that was like my attempt of like showing people like this is the depth of the stuff that I actually care about. But I think on the other end, the emotional stuff that I have is like my life is filled with, I mean, it's all over the place, just like everyone else's. It's like some days, some weeks, some months suck. Some time, like there's a handful of times every year where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I like, this seems really empty, or it seems pointless. But the way that I actually handle that through my art is I have this ethos of there's beauty no matter where you're at. There's some kind of beauty close by you. And it just takes a trained eye, kind of like a person who's been taking pictures long enough knows where the good light is, and he can just kind of like, he can walk into a room and just, he's almost instinctively just going, okay, there's good light there, there's good light there, there's an opportunity for a portrait over here, and he's kind of analyzing the room for that light. And I think that I do the same kind of thing, but it's like I'm trying to train my eye to see positivity, to see, hang on, I think I got lost. I just want to make sure that we're good. We're good?
No,
okay.
You're good, yeah.
I'm always trying to say, like when I went, because as a high school student, I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so that was like a struggle that I really went through, and it's like a continuous thing now. And there's lots of other stories of things we all have, and we have this like list of like, these are the reasons that I should be a douche, but I'm not. Like everybody has that list of like all this stuff happened in my life, but I'm always just like, look, there's beautiful stuff everywhere. Like there's beauty all over the place. And I think that that's the way that I process it, where I really respect people that like invite others to join them in their low places. And I think that I reserve that more for people who I see regularly, only because that's a hard place to invite strangers to. I think, and I think it's incredible the kinds of things that like Jeremy Cower, it's like he invites everybody into his stuff, and it's like, wow, that's a crazy place, because all of those people feel like they're close to you, when in reality what they know of you is what they've seen of you on the internet. And so I have this like internal struggle with that, of like, I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're like super close to me just because of what they've seen on the internet. I would rather reserve, like, there's something special about the human connection that I hope is always available, and that's always like the next step. And so I always just say, like, yeah, those low emotional places that I've been as an artist exist, and it's gone low. Yeah. But I think that I've tried to always just be like, okay, but where's that light? Like, where's that good light? So
for sure.
I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But
no, that was right on, for sure. At least for me, it was. I'm sure a lot of our audience is understanding as well, but and maybe some don't yet. But you will, if you're shooting and you shoot long enough, you will be like, oh, I suck, and then the next day you're like, oh, I'm amazing, and then you're like, no, I sucked really bad. I'm amazing. Yeah. You know, it's always like that.
Yeah.
So, well, so over the past few years, as you become more and more popular and kind of gained a bigger following, what are some things that you've done to stay grounded as a human and just stay connected to people around you and just the world?
I think that I don't need to do a whole lot for that, just because I don't even feel like it means a whole lot. Like, I mean, it's not like I need to have these moments where I'm going to go humble myself because all of these other people think that I'm a hero. It's like I spend the majority of my afternoons, like if you look behind the computer screen right now, there's baby toys everywhere. It's just like, and there's like dirty dishes in my sink. Like, it's not, I don't live like this fake glamorous life at all. It's like I'm a very humble, like my life is humbling enough where I'm like, I know that having however many, like even if you have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, like I've very rarely had an opportunity where people have come up to me. I've had this happen. Maybe I could count it on one hand, people that I didn't know anywhere on the street. And they're like, I know you from Instagram. And I'm like, oh, that's really weird. Like I've never, like I very rarely ever have that happen.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, I don't like internalize it. I just like, I think the healthiest way for me to handle it is like, I just kind of enjoy it the same way that you would like fast food. Almost, it's like, oh, that was fun, that tastes great, but it's not something that I want to keep inside me for too long. So it's like, because I think that when that stuff happens, when people actually start to go, oh yeah, I am great, like I am good, it's like I think having a healthy self-opinion is a great thing to have. But yeah, I don't know, like I hang out with people who are way more talented than I am too. I think that's part of it. Is among the group of artists that I hang out with, there's like a painter I know, there's an illustrator I know. I hang out with Ben Sasso, and so I'm like assisting these people all the time. So I never feel like I'm good yet, or I know that my work is quality, but yeah, I just I would say just hang out with people who can tell you when your work is crap. Like hang out with people that'll be true with you. When people compliment you, like take it, enjoy it. When people criticize you, take it and like listen to it, but don't ever just accept all of one and not any of the other, which I think artists tend to do. Is they either take all the compliments or they take all the criticism and they can't hear the other part. So I'd say like for me, it's like I know that there's times when I post a picture that I think is just going to kill and it tanks, and I'm like, oh, okay. That's enough to kind of keep me of like, okay, I clearly don't have it all figured out right now.
Right. I know that's such a great experience actually at this point in my career as well. It's nice to be humbled like that. So, final question here, the one that some photographers only listen to hear this question. So, what's your top 3 favorite pieces of gear?
Okay, that is a good one. Okay, well, I would say that. Okay, I'm gonna have to do 4 because one I don't think actually counts, but I think that my phone is one of my favorite because my phone is the only place where I can actually I can take pictures, I can edit them, I can post them, I can engage with my audience, I can share things that I've seen, I can answer emails. It's like, dude, if my camera could do all of that stuff, that would be awesome. But it's like my phone fits in my pocket. There's no people that whether you're shooting in any environment, there's no place ever where it's like people will tell you to put your phone away, where there's plenty of times where if you're holding up a huge camera.
My phone's my light right now too, is what's interesting.
Dude, solid.
It's lighting my face.
That's what I'm saying right now. So it's like, dude, they're great. Like I just think that it's so easy for people to have, like, I see pictures that come off of an iPhone or off of any, like the new like LG 5G phones and like all of these like new things, and I'm like, dude, what? Like, it's incredible, like this stuff that happens. So I would say that that's like before, but my actual gear that I like go and shoot with, I like my 5D Mark III because I shoot Canon. I've only ever shot Canon, and it's not because I think that they're the most awesome. It's just what I started with, and it never changed. So I'm just like, sure. So I shoot with that. I keep my 17 to 40L on there pretty much all the time. Again, landscape type stuff. I shoot very wide things, so I don't ever have to have really shallow adaptive field. I have options to do that kind of stuff. So got those two things, and those are like the two things that I keep on all the time. And I would say, other than that, probably, and as weird as it sounds, is my battery grip that I have on my camera. Just because I'm able to be away from I never have to ever think like, is my camera charged up enough to go do this thing that I've never even thought about that. And I hear people all the time just going, oh, my camera batteries are not alive. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how is that possible? So I've never had that problem. And I think I attribute it to that. So yeah, I would say that's my go-to. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Your aerial beach shots, how do you get those?
I didn't even remember that, and I would say that that's one of my most fun pieces of equipment because I just recently started to do more drone stuff, but I shoot that with a Phantom 3 Pro, the DJI, and the reason I didn't think that because it's off being repaired right now. I was flying it over the Huntington Pier, and then like the camera, a gimbal started to go really wobbly. I haven't really obeyed all of the like drone rules like I'm supposed to. So I was like, oh no, is that because of that happening? So I landed it. It's being repaired. But dude, that is so much fun right now. So I've been doing a lot of that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, those are so rocking. Just love those. And I think everybody does too. They just rock so hard, so special. So
thanks, brother.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have. You got anything else for us out there?
No, I don't have anything else. I don't think.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for just contributing to the photography community in a positive way. It's something we really, really need, and we're really thankful and appreciate you, Ryan, and again, just what you're doing for our community. So thank you so much, and everybody out there, please follow Ryan. If you're on my blog, I've got his Instagram, Facebook, and website linked right below here. Or you can just search on Google Ryan Longnecker, and all of his amazing stuff will pop up, and please follow him.
I'm the only Ryan Longnecker that's on the world, so
it's true. It's so true. You can't.
There's not a lot of me.
Absolutely amazing. Where does your last name come from, by the way?
That is a good question. I don't know anything.
You don't know? Interesting.
No, well, I mean, I've heard some things, but not anything that I'm going to waste anyone's time with. So
sure, for sure. Right on. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Ryan, and I hope you have a great evening. And thank you guys out there so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing evening, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.